So welcome back to the dumbest bill in America. This is Mark Fisher, and I have with us Delegate Brian Chisholm. Welcome, Brian.
Always good to be here.
So get this, podcast listeners. In Maryland, they passed all the way to the governor, House Bill 1036, the so-called Renewable Energy Certainty Act. The purpose of the bill is to make sure that the entire state is filled with solar panels. Now, here's the thing. If you want to put solar panels on your house, fine, that's your right to do so. But covering up farmland with solar panels, that's what the Democrats want. They call that environmentalism. Brian, what do you think about this bill?
There's a lot of certainty in the bill. Certain to bankrupt us, certain to bring brownouts, certain to bankrupt most of the state. It is just unconscionable to me that, in our state, and I looked it up when this bill was up, it is illegal, prohibited for anybody to stop you from putting solar panels on your rooftop. So every single Marylander can put solar panels on the rooftop right now, but people have realized they're too expensive and they're not reliable enough. So what do? We go after the farmland. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's destroy our food production in this
So
state.
isn't that what this bill does? This bill actually allows and forces people to be able to have solar panels on their farms to cover up some of the richest farmland in the world, including all throughout the Eastern Shore, podcast listeners. And basically, even if the land is in agricultural preservation, you signed an easement, and the easement said, in exchange for never developing your land and farming it for perpetuity, we'll give you a tax abatement. Your property taxes will be less. However, this bill says, oh, no. That previous thing that you signed doesn't matter. We're going to cover the farmland up anyway with solar panels.
And the overarching theme here really is, okay, red counties, you won't fall in the line to our climate cult. You don't believe in the green goddess of climate. We're going to force you to put solar panels on your farmland. I mean, it's sick to me what they really did down there.
So get this, Brian and podcast listeners, the solar panels, again, I want to make this really clear. If you want to put solar panels on your rooftop, that's your house, fine, do it. No one cares. Go for it. It's your right to do so. But this particular bill isn't really talking about that as much as it is covering up farmland. And we keep repeating this, and there is a reason. Because if you want a modern economy, if you want quantum computing, if you want AI, if you want cloud computing, if you want IT businesses, if you want your laptops, and if you want your iPhones, and if you want all of these other things that I think all of us do want to see developed in Maryland, guess what won't power it? Solar panels! You actually need baseload energy like nuclear power and electric generation from natural gas, right, Brian?
That's right. And if you look at solar, so they say 1 megawatt will do 300 homes. That is 7 to 10 square acres of farmland.
Of solar panels. That doesn't include the batteries. It doesn't. How many homes will 7 to 10 acres power again?
300 homes.
Oh my gosh. So you basically have to cover almost the entire state with
exactly.
solar panels.
Hence why they're looking at Eastern Shore.
And no food.
Who needs food?
I actually had an economist the other day from UMBC. I don't know his name. I'm not going to call him out at the moment, but he told me, you know what? My understanding is you can farm under the solar panels. I'm like, no, you can't. You can't. I mean, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Once the farmland is covered, you can't farm it. I mean, yes, maybe some weeds will grow there and so forth, but you also have to fence it in. So it's just, the whole thing is ridiculous. So we're going to run longer on this particular podcast of the dumbest bill for a reason, Brian, because on the House floor in the Maryland House of Delegates, Delegate Lily Chi, originally from mainland China, who moved to the United States a number of years ago and decided that she wanted to be the economic development person in Montgomery County, and then ran for office to the Maryland House of Delegates, where she is today, decided to get up on the House floor and talk about her home country of China and how it powers the economy in China, specifically solar panels. Do you think that's really going to work in China?
I don't think that China is looking forward to this at all. In fact, China buys all of our coal. The state of Maryland, one of the things we are good at, we can export coal. We're the number 2 exporter of coal in the country. Guess where it goes?
So listen to this. I want you to watch this clip just from Delegate Lily Chi talking about this bill. And listen very carefully. Here it is.
Yes, I want to explain my green vote. As a representative of a portion of Montgomery County that is agricultural reserve, I want to offer local perspective as well as global perspective. As a local representative, this bill respects the zoning power of local authorities as well as the farmers' right to say no. That's why we put a strong parameters there so that 95% of land can never be touched. And for the rest 5%, people have every right to say no to it. So I'm very proud of that. Second, as someone who grew up in a country that is now squarely competing with the United States on AI, on clean energy, right? I heard a lot of rhetoric about competing with China, but where are we competing with China on those industries of the future? Voting green on this bill is to make sure we are serious about that. Over the past 3.5 decades, I worry that we have lost the political will to compete. For someone who chose America over my home country, I hate to see us losing ground on anything. At the end of the day, America must win the 21st century, and Maryland must lead because we have the assets and the talents to compete on every front. But local NIMBYism across blue and the red counties is holding America back big time. So I want to offer some perspective to say, if we're serious about that, we all have a responsibility to go back and explain to our local communities what it takes to compete. So please vote green. Thank you.
Okay, so Brian, what do you think about this clip?
Yeah, I'd love to go see this part of China where they're working on renewable energy, because all the pictures of the China I see are very poor people having one child. They don't believe in birth as being renewable. You can only have one. No renewing there.
So do you know in China, mainland China, by the way, is building 2 coal power plants per week. And Lily Chi had the gall to get up on the House floor and say, the United States and Maryland, we're competing with China on solar panels, and we need solar panels everywhere to be able to power a modern economy. Meanwhile, the place where she's from, mainland China, they're not powering their economy with solar panels. They're powering it with actual baseload energy. So you might say to yourself, Brian, you might say, well, that's fine. You know, I still don't like coal, but we still at least need natural gas. We need natural gas energy, and we need coal until such time we can replace that power generation with something else. But that's not what Lily Chi is saying. She's saying, right? She's saying, oh, no, use solar panels to be able to power modern economies.
Yeah, it is just wackadoodle what they believe down there. It really is. They don't want us to have natural gas. They do not like nuclear. They really hate coal, but they're okay with coal going to, because there's some magical ocean out there that turns our coal into a renewable energy source, according to Lily Chi. I don't understand it.
So Lily Chi, of course, you saw that clip. She gets up, and something's really sketchy about that, isn't it? Because, she moves from communist China, moves to the United States, moves to Maryland, becomes the economic development person in Montgomery County, Maryland, then gets up on the House floor and talks about how we need to compete with solar panels on AI and quantum computing. I got to tell you something, Brian. Do you think solar panels are going to be able to power AI generation?
Yeah, because
and quantum computing?
Because we do know that AI is it's 10 times as much power for AI than it does a Google search. Can you imagine that? I don't know. China's a large country. I don't know how many solar panels they're going to need, but it's going to be a lot.
And they're building 2 power generation plants based on coal every single week. So obviously it's a bold-faced lie. That's what makes this so sketchy, because Lily Chi is not dumb. She's actually quite smart. She knows exactly what she's doing, podcast listeners. So here's my response on the House floor to Lily Chi. Listen up. Here it is.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Appreciate it. So the idea that we're going to compete with China and win with solar panels is probably the most nonsensical thing I've heard in a long time. What we need is actual power generation. We need power generation like nuclear, like natural gas, and we need to build that yesterday. And the idea that we're going to win the AI wars against China with solar panels is utterly stupid, and no one believes it. I'm just shocked I even just heard that. So let's go ahead and cover the entire Eastern Shore and Southern Maryland, Western Maryland, and elsewhere with solar panels, fencing them off on 100-acre farms. The wildlife can't get through. Then you have the heavy metals falling from the solar panels into the soils, and you call yourselves environmentalists? You're not environmentalists. Come on. This is just a grift from the big solar who started out saying they wanted solar panels on rooftops, and when they figured out they were causing leaky roofs by putting them on rooftops, they wanted an easier grift, which is exactly what this is. So I agree, we do need more power generation, but this is not the way we're going to get it. In fact, we're going to have more blackouts by heading in this direction. So I think China wins by forcing this upon us, as opposed to the alternative, which is actual baseload power generation. So for all of those reasons, I'm voting no. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
So what do you think about this, Brian? I mean, just like, let's tie a bow around this particular podcast on how the Democrats think they're going to power Maryland with solar panels.
I don't, it's always a question to me. Do they really believe this, or are they just bought and paid for? Because I think the key word that you used there was grift. This is a grift. It is a climate grift, and it's starting to come unravel, because I looked it up. If you look to all Americans, climate change is like 37 on their list of priorities. They're like, what? Whatever. But we are making billionaires out of this grift.
Who's making the money? Who's making the money from these solar panels?
I think there's a lot of people that
aren't these solar companies, they're coming in, they're telling people who have farms, they're like, we will put the solar panels on your farm for free, and then we will lease the land from you for a long time. In exchange, we'll pay you a little bit of money, and you're going to make more from that than you are from farming. By the way, while that may be true, you know what's not true? The solar panels are actually being put on their farm, and meanwhile, the federal government in the state of Maryland is heavily subsidizing it with grants, with loans, with subsidies. And so no wonder you're going to make more money from solar panels than farming. And meanwhile, they're destroying the entire farming community.
I mean, Ronald Reagan said it best, right? He said, if it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. If it stops moving, subsidize it. So we took solar panels and we just decided to subsidize it first. And now they're creating dirt farmers. And I had a high school buddy. We called him Dirt Farmer. Still a great guy. I loved him. But we always called him Dirt Farmer because he's playing in the dirt. That's all you're going to be able to farm if you have solar panels. No energy, no food.
So Lily Chi also thinks that these solar panels are going to be able to replace all power generation. By the way, so do all the Democrats, to be fair. They all think that this is going to work. So I have to ask the question, then why did BG&E, Baltimore Gas and Electric, say that there was going to be power issues, and you're going to have brownouts and maybe blackouts and so forth? And the Democrats, instead of saying, well, maybe we should reopen some power plants, are saying, no, solar panels are going to solve the problem. Look, we have to keep bringing home this point, because you know when it matters? When you get your electricity bill? Because your electricity bill is high because of the subsidies that are being given to solar panels because it's more expensive.
Not just that, we have to import more and more energy. The further energy goes, it's something called resistance. It costs more money. It creates much more damage to the environment because now we got to run all these transmission lines. If solar panels were...
So wait a minute, the transmission lines, aren't they being run from Maryland to outside the state because we don't have any power generation here?
That's exactly right. We have to bring it in from Pennsylvania.
And it's real power generation. We're sending it to nuclear power plants in Pennsylvania. We're not sending it to solar farms, are we?
No. And that's the amazing thing. The true environmental damage they do with solar panels, both in the way of the solar panel and the transmission lines. There was a couple bills, you saw them too, where they said, you know what, we're going to have to go through some pristine areas. We're going to have to put a bill in to push back some of these old laws that said you couldn't touch these pristine areas. Nah, you know what, we need them. We're going to run new transmission lines through, and we're going to run them over top of farms, and we're going to put solar panels everywhere we can, and that to solve the problem. And the problem really is right now, we have states around us that are very upset. And they're the ones warning us, you're going to have brownouts and blackouts because we're producing energy and you continue just to take it.
And they can't help us. At some point, they can't help us because they need power for their own states.
That's exactly right.
And so the Democrats are wrecking the economy. They're causing more and more environmental damage with their policies, while at the same time gaslighting you and saying that you're the person that's causing the problem. And meanwhile, your electricity prices are through the roof, all because of their policies. Final say.
Well, this is the Democrats. They are blaming the Republicans because their square peg doesn't fit in the round hole as hard as they want to pound it. It's the Republicans from stopping this from happening. It doesn't work. It doesn't fit, and we're all going to pay for it.
And that's the dumbest bill in America, powering the economy in Maryland with solar panels. Absolutely stupid. See you next time.